In the mountainside village of Hakuba, Japan, a boy is born. Just after the passing of his grandfather, Junior Ota is raised in Hakuba village, mostly by his grandmother, unfortunately not seeing his parents as much as they are always working. Hakuba, being popular in Japan for its large ski resorts, has hundreds of people flock to it daily. One of these people being a young Junior astonished by the sight of one of Hakuba Resort's large arcades. The sight of the lit up and coloured screens amazes the young boy. However, his time playing these games would be restricted for quite some time. But the excitement unfolding in the mind of this child would soon influence gaming forever. During his high school years, Junior began to take interest in video game development. He primarily looked into shoot-'em-up games, which have your character being a small spaceship or military vessel at the bottom of the screen, while you fired shots off at enemies coming from the top. Junior thought it would be an interesting idea to instead have this character be a Miko. A Miko, or Shrine Maiden, is a young priestess in Japanese culture that performed cleansing against wicked spirits. Junior's idea of a shoot-'em-up game with a Shinto aesthetic would make the game stand out than most shooters. While in school, he joined the orchestra club in order to learn more about music theory. His goal was to learn how to compose music so he could create music tracks for video games in the future. However, he didn't have any connections to any video game developers or knew anyone that created video games at the time. Because of this, he created his own games. Junior would create video games of his own as a hobby and as well to learn to make the game that he had dreamt of making before, signing his games off with the new pseudonym Zune. In 1995, while studying for his mathematics major at Tokyo Denkai University, he would create the game that would light the match to the game series that would soon take Japan by storm. The beginning of a major franchise, Toho, highly responsive to players.
Maxmani. Some people call me Maxi. I go by that a lot. I tend to do a lot of things. Jack of all trades, master of none, kind of thing.
Toho 1 is you have a bit of a history with that game anyway.
Yes. I have a love-hate relationship with that one. It was his college project and shows. Music and the graphics in the game, like all the backgrounds, they're really cool. It's kind of interesting how the Bullet Hell series started as an Arkanoid clone. The game's really broken too, yeah. It fights against you, but you can also break it yourself too, you know.
The first Toho game would lay the groundwork for what Junior would create in the future. The game features a Shinto Miko character, Reinu Hakure, attempting to track down the culprit that destroyed her shrine. The gameplay is simple at first, firing off bullets, or in this case a Fuda, at targets above you while trying to avoid incoming attacks. However, unlike other shoot-'em-ups, you also have the yin-yang orb mechanic. This mechanic, similar to the game Breakout, has you knocking the yin-yang orb at enemies as it is the only thing that can hurt them. Along with this, the bomb mechanic would be a failsafe to save the player from any bullet on screen, as upon clicking the button it would wipe most bullets from the game screen. The game has 6 stages, which would become a staple in each Toho game to come. However, this game has a branching path, which leads to a different final boss as well as a different ending. The game is also very difficult, as Junya or Zune once stated that he believed the games at the time were becoming much too easy to appeal to a wider audience. Fans of the game would note that as a first game, it could be very glitchy at times, and some attacks can fail to load or have different attack sequences play out due to the coding of the game. However, this game would only be a launching pad for what was to come. Zune would create his second Toho game, Story of Eastern Wonderland, around a year after his last. He, however, wouldn't publish these games until 1997 during the convention Comiket 52, where he bought around 80 copies of each game to sell.
They were released together at Comiket, and not that many copies. Zune at the time probably didn't think he's gonna sell that many.
Yeah, he sold out. Sold out. Every single copy was gone.
This drove him to continue to make games for the series as the years went by. The second game, Story of Eastern Wonderland, takes a shift when it comes to gameplay. The game itself would follow the typical gameplay started off from Toho 1 and other shoot-em-ups. However, new shot types were added to the games and the yin-yang orb mechanic was taken out entirely. The shot types would let the player choose their style of gameplay, be it narrow range shots, homing shots or mid-range. The style the game takes when it comes to its gameplay would become the staple of how Toho games would function as a whole. The game features a power-up system as well as an unlockable extra stage, things that would become core features for the games to come.
Tell me a little bit about, and just a small rundown on what exactly score running is to the audience who probably wouldn't know.
Score running is all about getting the highest score, and that usually involves a lot of riskier plays. It's a very planned out kind of thing. The only game I've scored is Toho 2. At one point I just happened to have the highest recorded score, so I was put at first place, but that was quickly taken away from me. A few years later I decided to get my spot back. It took me like a day or two. I streamed it all as well. I got the first place, which was a very great feeling. I'd never done something like that.
Yeah.
And then the next day it was already taken.
So you got it once, and then it was instantly taken away with it. And then a few years passed, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna go again. And then you had it, and it was instantly taken away again.
Yeah, in fact, it was one of the viewers in the stream who went and took it.
It was one of the viewers in the stream. Oh my god! What the hell?
With his games overselling, Zune returned to work on the third entry to the Toho series. After completing his studies in university, he managed to bag himself a job at the video game company Toho, famous for creating such arcade favourites as Bubble Bobble and Space Invaders. Zune achieved his position by showing the interviewer his work on Toho. Impressed, the interviewer hired him as a programmer for their home console games. While working on Toho 3, Zune was looking for different ways to expand the gameplay of the game. As the games that came before had different gameplay, Zune originally looked towards Gradius, a shooter game that had a horizontal line of gameplay rather than vertical. Somewhere during its creation, however, the game changed into a somewhat versus mode version of shoot 'em up. Zune drew inspiration from the game Twinkle Star Sprites, where two characters engage in the typical arcade shooter gameplay, but upon meeting certain conditions, players can unleash different spell attacks towards the opposing player. Toho Phantasmagoria of Dim Dream was released at the end of 1997 during Comiket 53. With the completion of the third game, Zune had 3 different games with varied styles of gameplay from each one. For the fourth game of the series, Zune decided to return to the simplistic gameplay of Toho 2.
I'm Pelo, and I draw pretty funny stuff on the internet. Back in the day when I was playing the PC-19, I also liked the gameplay. It was way different from the other bullet hells that I played.
Yeah.
Because you have the character, but they need to hit you in the center.
Yeah, the hitbox is
It's
only
pretty
there.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's sometimes weird because you don't know how to dodge or how you dodge.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty cool way to play bullet hells.
Toho 5, or Mystic Square, would be released just 4 months after the release of Toho 4, and with this, the series would begin to shift. The past 5 Toho games were developed under the PC-98 operating system for computers, an operating system that was slowly but surely becoming even more obsolete as the years went by. And as the Toho series would enter the new millennium, the franchise would find itself fame, in not only Japan, but all over the world. The embodiment of the Scarlet Devil, the sixth game in the series, would become the most popular game in the entire franchise. With the change from the PC-98 to the Windows operating system, the games would find themselves reaching a larger audience overseas, with the new players of the series commending the gameplay and music of the sixth entry. The embodiment of the Scarlet Devil polished the previous entry's gameplay, as well as including the spell card system that the later games would incorporate as well.
I guess I'll stay my name for the record, Virtlux. That's my name, that's my nickname. I use this for my YouTube. I remember I was starting playing on easy mode, and I started with EOSD, and I died onto melee. Like, I had to continue.
Meleeing the third stage boss, yeah.
Yeah, I got to stage 3 on my first blind run, I think. And then I got to Sakuya, and I had to repeat like 3-4 times until I got past her. And then she's like, end of the game, bye!
Still using the initial design concept from the second Toho game, EOSD brought in a spark of life to the gameplay that has held up over the years. Zune built the engine that the game would run on from scratch. This engine would also be used for the next games in the series.
A video that you made, your animated embodiment of the Scarlet Devil video, what inspired you to make that animation in the end anyway?
Long ago, I had a computer, and I was making like a bunch of videos, TF2 and Sheldon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Someone commented like, "Oh, hey, how about you make a Toho animation?" And I've been a Toho fan since long ago, and I'm like,
one of the OGs.
Yeah, one of the OGs, yeah. And I'm like, sure, why not? And it never happened. It never happened. My computer, like, I don't know what happens. Exploded, yeah. And I get sad, like, oh no, I lost everything. I gotta start from zero.
Yeah.
Even if my computer exploded, I still remember that guy in my head. Oh, dude, this guy. And I promised him no. And oh my god, I remember. He had a Chen picture.
Oh my god.
Yes. He had a Chen picture. He doesn't have it anymore, but he had it. Like the thing. And at one point I said, you know what? How about I just start doing it? I don't remember why I started getting into Toho again. It's probably because I started seeing drawings and I'm like, you know what? How about I play it again? In short, I'm like, you know what? Let's just start doing this. And then I started playing it. I saw a lot of people from the Toho community liking it. And it's been a while since I've been on the Toho community. So it's been great. It's been great.
Yeah.
From 2002 to 2005, Toho would have its golden age, with the next 5 games being its most popular and most beloved in the entire series. Toho 9 for one went back to the player versus player concept initially introduced in Toho 3, but improved on it in all aspects. With the boom in popularity the series was now getting, Zune decided to move away from other conventions to sell its games and make his own convention based solely around the Toho project named Virtlux. Along with these new games, the series' first ever spin-off game would be created by another developer. Twilight Frontier, a Japanese developer known for producing popular indie games, stepped in to help in the creation of a fighting game for the series. Immaterial and Missing Power was created as the first ever non-mainline game in Toho history. Around this time, Zune also began to create albums of his own with original music based on the Toho series, such as Dolls in Pseudo Paradise in 2002. Along with this, he also began to work on Aku's Untouched Score, a number of albums based around the recreation of the original 5 PC-98 game soundtrack.
That was called Bad Apple, and this was the video that went along with it. It was really huge. It was #1 for weeks and weeks and weeks.
To get the attraction.
This is like technology people are really into online.
It features a video game called Toho Project.
Toho Project.
It's a series of games, and it's shooting game. It's not only shooting.
No.
You become a shrine maiden.
Around this time, Zune would quit his job and begin working on the Toho project as his main source of income. With this time to work on the series now to his advantage, a string of Toho games and spin-offs would be given to us in a very short span of time. However, it was easy to see that the series wasn't hitting the same highs as it was during the early 2000s. Despite this, one of the most popular spin-off games, Toho Hisoten Toku, would release with massive praise from all fans of the series.
What makes them so appealing and what makes them more interesting to play than other fighting games such as Street Fighter or something like that, you know?
With 10.5 and 12.3, which are both very similar, has the deck building aspect as well. And you can switch out your moves on the fly and level them up. Even with the same character, you can find multiple play styles. Hisoten Soku was more of an add-on for Hisoten. Came with its own story and I think some balance changes, but that's pretty much it. They're quite identical.
Other spin-off games would also be released, such as Great Fairy Wars and Double Spoiler, which featured the same typical shoot-'em-up style action, but with some twists to the gameplay. However, in the next years to follow, the Toho series would see itself expanding more and more, increasing until the series would hit an all-time high in reviews, praise and sales as it truly entered the Western market. Entering this new era of Toho, with the use of social media being at an all-time high, the series would gain more traction from an audience now outside Japan and its previously existing niche audience elsewhere. The release of Toho 14 Double Dealing Character came with very positive reviews from the fanbase along with some mixed reviews to the overall gameplay. This game would come with an all-new engine that the games to come after would use. Toho 14 was also the first game where a digital online release would be brought to the Western public through the website Playism. Along with the release of a new mainline game after 2 years without a new edition, a new fighting game by Twilight Frontier released with an all-new coat of paint. The gameplay shift from a ground-based fighting game to a floater fighting game came with some mixed feelings from the fanbase. However, this formula would be refined as the games would release. Toho 15, 16 and 17 would be released 2 years in succession from each other.
Hi guys, I'm Beastmaster Zeman. I am a former content creator for the Toho community, and I am currently a VTuber within the VTuber community. I think some of the issues with the modern era were that like some of the characters just don't feel memorable and stuff like that. Like Toho 16, like I can pretty much only remember Door Lady.
Yeah, Okina, yeah.
Okina, yeah. They're kind of like revisiting some old mechanics, which is okay, but like they did it in he did it in such a bad way. Like Toho 17 with the beasts like flying around and stuff like that.
With the release of the next games in the series, the popularity of the Toho project in the West would reach an all-time high as the games would become extremely accessible through the use of Steam, the largest online marketplace for PC gamers. The release of the franchise on Steam would bring in a new age for Toho content. An array of incredible fan games would be released on the platform as well as home consoles. Toho releasing on Steam also gave the fans a clear-cut way to financially support Zune's work firsthand. The most recent Toho games released have shown how experimental Zoom can really get with the series. With different gameplay variants such as new power-ups, bombing styles, and progression systems, it shows us the incredible versatility of shoot-em-ups.
I actually personally really like Toho 18 just because the roguelike aspect of it kind of gives the game a bit more replayability and like an extra layer of depth to it.
Yeah.
Which is it's really fun to me, right? That's the Toho game that I think I've played the most.
Take her out.
No, don't.
Come on, shoot, shoot, shoot! Punch, shoot!
The Toho project, from its humble upbringing to its immense popularity, has been an incredibly influential series on the entirety of gaming. It has inspired countless independent developers to create their own worlds and build games themselves. Toho has brought so many people together from around the world to share their passion for the series.
Toho is a once in a lifetime kind of thing, and once it gets you, it gets you. Toho really changed my life, helped me get out from a bad place.
Yeah.
And it's given me some kind of purpose in life, and I've met a lot of amazing people.
Well, with the community, again, I don't know. I hope everyone does good. I hope no one, not toxic, more like, let's just help each other. That's pretty much it. And if people don't like something, well, let's move on to something else. And that's pretty much it.
Exactly, yeah.
Enjoy the series, guys. I'd say enjoy the series in a healthy way. The Toho community has impacted my life in such a big way, right? Because I feel like if I never went into the Toho community, I would have never met so many awesome people that I have met now. I wouldn't have gotten this drive to be a content creator and create stuff for the world to see. It's truly something special that you can't get anywhere else. And even though I had a rough falling out with the Toho community, I can always go back to it and still call it home.
And as the series continues on, more and more people come to understand what makes Toho so great. It's a series that isn't afraid to experiment. It can take you from magical forests, misty lakes, towering mountains, to heaven or hell, or even to the moon and back. Toho is here to stay, and who knows what holds for us in the future.